Everybody, welcome back to another episode of FSi DFS. I'm your host, Mega Ruler 31. I'll be breaking down Friday's main slate for Major League Baseball. And I'm doing this on Thursday night, which is usually, if it's a larger slate, I'll usually get up like 4:30 in the morning, do the research, try to get everything recorded and produced by 6 a.m. because then I need to get ready for work and take my daughter to the bus stop and all that fun stuff. So I want to stay up tonight and watch the Lakers game and Golden State. Just glad it starts at 9 a little bit earlier. So hopefully it doesn't go super late, but I didn't think getting up 4:30 after staying up would be pretty wise and working a full day and everything else I got to do. So if this goes horribly wrong, then maybe I won't do more night slates or night videos before, but we'll see. Maybe if we get more viewership, it gives you more time to watch, then I guess that's a bonus. So with that being said, if weather changes, if starting pitchers change, if because this is kind of a first look thing we have going on here, and generally I have more information in the morning, then check back through the course of the day. If something radically changes, then I'll post some updates. So at least, check up until like 6 o'clock, which is an hour before lock. I guarantee I'll have, if there's any changes or notes or anything, I'll throw some comments in the chat to try to keep you up to date on that. So let's dive into the slate. First up, we have Boston going to Philadelphia. This might be the only one that has a little bit of weather issue. It looks like a 50% chance of rain. So we'll see with that one. I mean, it's just I live probably 2 hours away from Philly, and it's just like seems like it's rained nonstop for 3 weeks here. But it's just been like annoying little showers here and there, a couple like downpours, but nothing major. So it's probably just gonna be wet and yucky and miserable. Looks like temperature for it's going to be about 58 degrees. So we'll just have to keep an eye on that for like pitchers. But we have Chris Sale taking on Zach Wheeler, and might be interested in Sale as a cheaper pitcher. He's put together like last couple of games have finally come around and been decent after just having some very scary starts. But he's still working his way back from an injury, and it's just multiple injuries. It just seems like this guy is the Anthony. I would say he is the Anthony Davis, but I would say definitely is hurt a lot during the course of many seasons recently, which is unfortunate because he's been a pretty decent pitcher. So Sale, I think, is in play. It's coming in at 7,500, which is decent mid-range price. And like I said, his sandwich in between a pretty bad start at Baltimore. He had a couple games where he was in the 20s and starting to hit 11 strikeouts versus Minnesota, and Cleveland doesn't strike out much. He got 5 there. So Philly team with Bryce Harper, who's back in the lineup, and after going an 0-4, actually put together a pretty decent hitting day. So maybe just one game is all he needed to get back on track. So we'll see with that. Zach Wheeler on the other side, I like him. He's been decent, and I'm glad this game's in Philly and not Fenway Park, because I think that bodes better for him, especially. And he the same thing. Started out the season and averaged like 11 DK points for about the first 4 games, and has had like 28 and 29 the last couple with 11 strikeouts and 7 strikeouts. And Boston doesn't strike out a ton, and they do have some left-handed power, and you do have the weather factor here a little bit also. So I think he's in play in the high range, but there's a couple guys I like better than him. Bat-wise, Boston, I think, and Philly, I think these both, just depending on how the weather is, go in the 150 max. Maybe GPPs, they would be like the empty spot there underneath Milwaukee. I do like the Boston lefties. I do like the Philadelphia righties. I'm okay with Harper there, but I'd probably go like Turner, Harper, Castellanos, Real Muto, maybe Baum, Sosa, maybe for a wraparound there. Just skip over like Schwarber, Marsh, and Stott. Probably would leave them out of the stack. And for Boston, like I said, Verdugo, Yoshida, skip over Turner, Devers, Duran, maybe skip Casas. This Emmanuel Valdez, who's just got called up, is hitting pretty well also. So he's not one to consider in the stack. So next game up, we have the Twins and the Guardians. We have Bailey Oler and Peyton Battenfield, although that's what I'm seeing here. DK has a different pitcher for Cleveland, I believe. And nope, they have Battenfield. So yep, I have him on the fade list. So I'm not interested in Battenfield too much against Minnesota. Like, he hasn't been bad, but really just one start against Detroit, and anybody can do good against Detroit, but he's at single digit DK point. Actually, he had a negative against Boston last time out. Only lasted 2 innings, gave up 3 runs, 1 home run. He's given up almost 1 home run every single start. And Ober on the other side, like, again, Cleveland doesn't strike out, but they don't have a ton of power. That's more like, almost besides Ramirez and maybe an occasional home run here and there. Like, Ober hasn't been horrible. He's been consistent. He's scored 19.2 DK points in his first 2 starts, gone 5.2 innings. 1 earned run, 6 strikeouts, 4 strikeouts. So, not a ton of upside there, but a 7,200 might be like a safe play for an SP2 or a GPP play. So I'm fine with that. Bat wise, Minnesota, definitely, they've been hitting. The weather there, let's see here, 60 degrees, no precipitation, so we should be fine. Wind doesn't look like it's going to be a factor either. So bat-wise, give me some of the Minnesota lefties and Buxton, who's been hitting and starting to steal some bases too. Polanco's been solid, a switch hitter. Larnish, maybe Gallo if I'm expanding the stack. On the Guardians side, I'm just really not interested unless I'm doing 150 max GPP. Mets in Colorado, maybe it's like a 30% chance of rain here, so I just noted it in the weather notes there. You have Senzatel against Senga. Senzatel, I'm not interested at all. Like, just hasn't, probably one of the worst pitchers, just coming off the IL. Like, we don't know how long he's going to go. He tore his ACL last August, so we'll have to. He has allowed 7 earned runs on 13 hits across 6 innings in his rehab starts in Albuquerque. So that's enough right there to say he's a no. Senga has just been, he's good in spring training. He's got that like ghost pitch. He came out and played Miami twice and started the season good, but then at Oakland, you can only score 9 DK points. At San Francisco, 9, and these are not good hitting teams. And then Washington, 15. So he's had some really soft matchups and really hasn't been producing. I mean, he's gotten 7Ks, 4Ks, and 7Ks. So, he is getting some strikeouts, and this Colorado lineup is not scary, especially outside of Coors. But just the price point on him at 10-2, I just can't do that in cash. Maybe sprinkle in some GPPs, but even the Colorado should be a decent matchup, and the K's should be there. I wouldn't be surprised if he gave up a couple runs too. You just got to figure out for the Colorado bats. And looking here, like I said, Miami was his first start, so he only gave up 1 run, but they gave up 4 runs to Oakland, 4 runs to San Francisco, and he gave up 2 runs to Washington, and those 3 are not great lineups. So I think Colorado scores some runs here. They're probably one of the cheap stacks they can throw there, especially in GPP. And Met-wise against Sensatel, I think that they would probably make a decent GPP stack. They're not one of the top 4 offenses that I like. They'll probably be 6th today, or probably 7th. 7th or 8th, because I really like Casey and Minnesota in the mix too, and I put them the cheaper and they're not in the top stacks. But Mets definitely in play here, especially the lefties. Nemo, Lindor, switch hitter. Alonso, you can play against anybody. McNeil, maybe Vogelbach or Batty can hit a home run. It's kind of a part downgrade here too as they move to city. It's not at Coors Field, so. But we'll see if the Mets can put together some runs against Sensatel and the bullpen that's not great from the Rockies either. They don't have many lefties in their bullpen either. So that's something where you might pick up some the right-handed bats. I don't feel super bad playing, or the left-handed bats. I don't feel super bad playing them against a right-handed starter from Colorado. So next up, we have Atlanta at Baltimore. Now we'll have to keep our eye on this one because Acuna, I thought, like, the Major League Baseball Network I was watching, like, cut to it, and I thought he tore his ACL again because he was on the ground, like, holding his knee, and then they did the replay, and I saw they fouled the ball off it, and he exited the game after that. So I have to see if that was just precautionary or what's going on, if he's back in the lineup. Hopefully he's okay. Hopefully it's just a bruise for him. But in Atlanta, there's a 30% chance of rain. So just have to keep an eye on that. It'll probably be nothing. It'll probably be fine. You have Dean Creamer, who I'm not interested in, and Max Fried, who's been pretty solid so far to start the season. He got a late start coming back from injury, and his first start was against Washington. He only went 3 innings, but he scored 20 DK points against San Diego, 21 DK points against Houston, and 31 against the Mets. And he's gone 5 innings, 6 innings, and 5 innings after his first start. So he has allowed no runs since his first start, about 3 hits per game, and he's getting anywhere between 4 to 7 strikeouts. So not too bad. I know the Orioles are much better this year hitting, and they're probably going to throw a ton of righties at him. But I'm perfectly fine with Fried. I think he's my favorite guy in the mid-range. And if you want to play more expensive bats, I have no problem making him your SP one and taking like Montgomery Burns or Olber or Sale or one of these other cheaper ones, and just building from there and just leaving the whole top group off the slate, which is perfectly fine because each one of them have a difficult matchup, or not like an ideal matchup. So free definitely play Creamer. So Baltimore would just be a leverage stack here. Again, if you want to stack a bunch of righties against them, but the Braves have a decent bullpen usually. And then Atlanta, again, we have to see if Acuna's in there or not. But, if he is in, we'll have to see who's leading off there. But, definitely like some of the bats. I don't know if Acuna's not in there, if I'm going to go a full 5-man stack against Creamer. He's not like a gas can. He's not great, but he's not horrible. So see what goes on there. I think this next game is going to be very, very popular with Oakland and Kansas City. We've got 2 not great pitchers here against 2 offenses that aren't great, but can put it together sometimes. So Kyle Mueller currently has a 6.28 ERA, and it's pretty much because they really don't have anybody else to bring up. They tried everything, but his highest DK point for the season was 14. He's had 2 games in the negatives. He's last game he did a little bit better against Cincinnati, but previous to that, he's given up 4 earned runs, 6 earned runs, and 6 earned runs. He's given up at least 1 home run in the last 4 games, and you can only get about 3 strikeouts a game. So he's obviously on the fade list, and it makes Kansas City one of my favorite stacks of the slate, which also, if you want to just go 4 here or use them as a secondary stack and go 5-3 with the Royals. But on the other side, Brad Keller hasn't been lighting the world on fire either, and we've seen the A's been able to score runs and get hits, especially up at the top of this lineup. So that's something also to keep in mind, and they make a nice cheap stack to fill in also. So yeah, Keller's got a 3.56 ERA currently, and hasn't given up many home runs, only 1 this season. So it's not going to be power. He's probably going to get singles to death, but the walks, 5 walks, 6 walks, 5 walks, only getting like 2 Ks a game. And there were a couple games where he gave 1 run, but he gave up 4 runs and 3 runs to like Arizona and Texas. So definitely think the A's are in play also. So Kansas City fading both pitchers. Kansas City, probably my favorite stack, and love like the prices on them are not too expensive to make things happen. I mean, Witt's going to be the most expensive at 5K, but you've got like Olivares at 2.7 here, and Garcia, who they called up third base or outfield eligible on DK, is only 2,400. Vinny Pasquantino, who I know it's a lefty on lefty here, but don't think Muller's going to last long enough. And second time around, if they hit him, you're going to get to the A's bullpen and definitely come up against a righty there. So I'm fine playing him at 39 at first place. Perez at 4.3 is not super expensive either. So, and like I said, I like the A's side also. Ruiz, Rooker, Laureano, depending on who hits up in the second spot, whether it's Kemp or Noda, even Jace Peterson potentially. I don't know if I go full 5-man stack if it was in GPP, but there's enough to be able to fill in your lineup if you want to play a high price stack like the Dodgers or Texas or the Angels. Next up, we have Detroit and St. Louis. This game, chance of precipitation here is about 30%. Also, I don't have it on the list because it didn't look as bad on the map, but it's going to be 65 degrees there, so a little bit warmer. You have Matt Boyd and Jordan Montgomery. Boyd, not interested in here. I know the Cardinals haven't been hitting, and they've lost like 3 in a row. They just have not been very disappointing recently. But I think there's a good chance to turn things around going back home against the lefty and Boyd, who has shown a lot of potential like early on, but just recently, like they don't let him go deep because I think they want to kind of protect his arm. But the other side of it too is he just has him in great. He's got a 5.47 ERA. He had one good game against Milwaukee, which Milwaukee has really struggled against left-hand pitching, but every single other one he hasn't scored more than 10 DK points. 6 earned runs, 2 earned runs, 3 earned runs, 2 earned runs, 2 earned runs, home run, 2 home runs, and just besides the Milwaukee game where he had 8 strikeouts, every other game he's only had 3 to 4. So this Cardinal team doesn't strike out a ton either. So Boyd's definitely a cross-off. Montgomery I like here because they might platoon in a bunch of righties against him, and the only lefty being like Riley Green, but these righties are not good. I'd rather have a righty with like some of the young lefty bats in Detroit than a lefty against them. So Montgomery I think is solidly in play in the mid-range here. He's coming in at only 8,600, which isn't bad, and he scored at least 22 DK points his last couple of games, and that was at the Dodgers and at San Francisco. Had a rough game against Arizona, but again, another lefty against Milwaukee and dominated them. So strikeouts in the last couple of games, he's had 7, 6, 5. So I think there's definitely some strikeouts there. And I think like Fried Montgomery is a nice way to maybe start a lineup if you're trying to get some more expensive bats in, to stay in this like medium range here instead of going for the high guys. I'm perfectly fine with that. Detroit would just be a leverage stack against Montgomery, and the Cardinals at GPP, just because of recent form, definitely would stick to the righties. Edmund will probably lead off. Goldsmith, Contreras, Arenado, Carlson, De Jong. It's cooled off a little bit since he came up and was on fire, but again, someone to consider. Tyler O'Neill if he's in there, so just have to see how the lineup is, but I'm fine with a 5-person St. Louis stack. Rangers and Angels, I think this is another decent game to look at. It's going to be 63 degrees in Los Angeles, and the wind's blowing out at about 12 miles per hour, where again, like wind, that's going to aid the ball a little bit, but not as significant as it would be in some other parks. And the pitching matchup here, you have Tyler Anderson, who comes at 6K. He's got a 5.74 ERA. Like, had a good game against Milwaukee. Again, he's a lefty. Go figure. So just note yourself, right, like someplace in big notes. If you see a left-hander pitcher against Milwaukee, do not play the Milwaukee bats. Play the pitcher against them. So probably going to lead to good things. But other than that, Struggled against Kansas City, struggled against Boston, struggled against Toronto, had a good game opening against Oakland, but that was so long ago. So I really like the Texas bats here. I'm not playing Anderson. And then on the other side of the game here, Eovaldi, I think he's been okay this season. Like he started out and he was giving you like anywhere from 16 to 18 DK points, which depending what his price point was, is they were mostly in like the 7K range, low 8K range. I was fine with that. Then he drops a 43.5 against the New York Yankees, which again, it's a watered down lineup. He's had anywhere like 6 to 8 strikeouts in every single game. So the Ks are going to be there. The Angels do strike out. And the Angels are much better against left-handed pitching than right-handed pitching. But I'm putting them on the not interested list just because like the Angels have been putting up runs recently. Even the other day where they're up against a right-handed pitcher, I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to play too many Angels because they just haven't been hitting well against a righty, and they just absolutely went to town. Like all my days are blending together. Let me see, was it today? Yeah, they scored 11 runs. They scored, and of course it was against Flaherty in St. Louis, and he got injured, but they scored 11 runs in the first 4 innings, and they had like 10 runs in the first 3 innings. So it's just absolutely crazy offense. Like with Rodon back in here, like there's really, I mean, Neto leading off has not been great, but with Trout, he's starting to hit some home runs. Ohtani's just been super solid. Rendon, Renfroe, Drury, there's not a weak spot here. So that's why I have Eovaldi in the no interest category. If you want to play him in GPPs, I get it. It might work out for you, but I think Texas is going to be my top stack here against Tyler Anderson, just as well as they've played recently. And then Los Angeles Angels, I think, are definitely in play as a GPP against Eovaldi. Wow, I thought the Angels and Cardinals had a pretty big score at 11-7. I didn't realize, I forgot that Baltimore and the Royals had a football score today. It was 13-10. Just crazy amount of offense going on, and the pitching just wasn't great today too, so it could be a reflection to that. And it was a getaway day, so I think they didn't want to use up their pitchers. They're saving most of the good bullpen for the series that are coming up this weekend, trying to get things lined up for that. So I think most people like mailed it in and said, let's just see how this game ends and let's see who can outscore who. So another good matchup coming up here. We're going to have the Dodgers and the Padres. We have Kershaw and Musgrove. Kershaw's been solid this season. I thought just with his age that would eventually start to see some regression with him, but he's just continues to go out there. He only has a 1.9 ERA. He's 5-1 on the season. 36 DK points against St. Louis, 25 against Chicago, 36 against the Mets. His only game he struggled was Arizona, but he played them like the game before, like 6 days previously, after putting up 31 points. Then he only put up but the strikeouts are there. Like the last 3 games, he's had 9, 6, and 9. The Padres do strike out. I know they got a lot of right-handed bats. Machado just hasn't been great. Soto, lefty. Bogart's been okay. Tatis is back. Nelson Cruz might be able to get a hold of one, but I think he'll be able to hold them at bay. So I think, Kershaw's probably is the most expensive pitcher on the slate and probably a top guy. But if you don't want to pay up to him against the Padres, that's fine. It's going to make the Padres the number 1 leverage stack. So definitely stack, the Padres against them just in case. We've seen, I think wasn't Verlander, but Max Scherzer was one of the top pitchers on the slate the other night and got like absolutely rocked. So, anything can happen in baseball. So the most expensive pitcher doesn't necessarily mean that they're the best option on the board. So it always pays if just for $1 at GPP, you put together a San Diego stack, they go like the Angels did today and score a ton of runs in the first couple innings and knock them out. And then, you've got a ton of leverage on the field because probably nobody really played them, especially on an 11-game slate. So Musgrove on the other side, definitely no interest in. The Dodgers are my second favorite stack on the slate next to the Texas Rangers here. Yeah, Musgrove, he's just way too expensive, first of all, for where was he? Why is he not showing up on? Oh, we've got Darvish now. That's interesting. Looks like DK just changed that. Well, I don't know who's going to be pitching for. If it's Darvish, again, I would think against the Dodgers, I don't know if I'm really going to have a ton of interest in him. I mean, he's definitely a better than Musgrove. So we'll just have to see when the Major League Baseball officially announces who they have. But Darvish's first couple starts of the season were great. He's a little bit better against Milwaukee and Arizona and San Francisco. But the strikeouts are there, but he's also given up some runs and give up 3 home runs against San Francisco in his last start. So if Darvish is there, probably would drop the Dodgers down maybe a couple of spots. I think I'd move up Arizona and Atlanta depending on if Acuna is in the lineup or not. But again, check the notes. I'll give you a final determination on that after. But I think I still like the Dodgers here, especially the lefties, whether it's Darvish or Musgrove. I know it's a pitching upgrade in the park, but still, like, Dodgers have been putting up a crazy amount of runs also recently. So Freeman, Muncy, Haywood, Outman, give me all the lefties there. Throw Betts in. I love that he's shortstop eligible now. That's such a garbage position on some of these slates. It gives you somebody good to fill in there. And like I said, the Padres are just going to be a stack where you're going to be trying to get leverage on the field. Washington Nationals and Arizona Diamondbacks. Josiah Gray. I think maybe if you're looking for cheap pitchers in a GPP, he's definitely somebody that you could potentially consider. But I don't know if I'm too keen on him. He hasn't a bad season. Actually, his last couple of starts have been pretty good. At the Mets, he's put up 32 DK points and 23 against Pittsburgh. 6 innings pitched in them. Only like about 3 hits allowed, only 1 run between the 2 games, no home runs, only 4 walks between the 2 games, and he's had 15 strikeouts in the 2 games, not in both games, but he had 6 in one and 9 in the other. So not a bad effort there against Arizona. And they've been good and still hitting even without Carroll in the lineup. It's at home, so I'll just have to see what the temperature, if the roof is open. I mean, it's hot out, that really helps the ball fly. We used to call this field Coors Light when it was like a situation like that. They used to have the humidor to try to keep the balls with low humidity so it wouldn't fly as far. So I don't know if it's as much of a park factor. This is something we used to talk about in like 2018 and 2019. So yeah, Josiah Gray is interesting. That's why I still have him on the board here. Merrill Kelly on the other side too, and Washington just doesn't have much pop. Like, they'll single a W to death, but they won't necessarily hit for a ton of power, even though this is a park upgrade for them. And Kelly is probably, he's at 6,800, and it looks like he usually gets around 17 DK points. And even out at Colorado last time out, he put up 21 DK points, which isn't bad. Only gave up 1 earned run, 1 walk, 5 Ks. So, and nobody's running out to play Merrill Kelly. But if you're playing large field tournaments and want to keep him in the field at like 3 to 5%, I think it's definitely worthwhile against the Washington team. Bat wise, Washington just goes in the 150 max. I don't really like them here. There's so many other cheaper options and much better situations that I like. And then Arizona would be my second favorite stack here, just with the way they've been, or not second, third favorite stack here, just the way they've been hitting. They profile really well. If Carroll's back, that's fine, but Rojas, Martes, Walker's been starting to hit. Probably skip over Gurriel, the righty on righty here. Dominic Fletcher is like free on both sites here. Alex Thomas, and we'll have to see, if there's another lefty in there, if Carroll is not in the lineup, then potentially you'll see somebody else take his spot. So have to. It's usually Smith usually comes in, Pavin Smith. So there's another decent young hitter that's pretty cheap at 3,400 and hasn't really hit much in the last couple of games, but does have 2 home runs on the season. So, there's something to no stolen bases, which is kind of disappointing. If that's something that you kind of want to look for now, nowadays, even more so with the changes of the base, especially on Arizona where they run a lot, but doesn't necessarily mean that he can't get some RBIs and some hits for you at a cheap price, hitting up higher in the lineup, especially if he takes the 3rd spot from Carroll. So just let's see what that lineup looks like for that. Astros and Mariners, you have Christian Javier and Luis Castillo. This game actually has a pretty low total because I think they're looking for it to be a pitcher's duel. I mean, it looks like there's a 61% chance of precipitation, but it's in Seattle, so I believe they can close the roof. So I don't think that's going to be a factor at all for them. So, Houston's Houston, and yes, they can hit, but until until Brantley gets back in this lineup and they get Altuve, who's getting close, like he's about 2 weeks out from his broken thumb. Or they get the full lineup back, they're not as imposing as they have been in the past. And Castillo's been solid so I think he's my second favorite pitcher behind Kershaw, and might be even a better matchup than Kershaw having the Padres, if the Padres actually can put a game together and start clicking. And then Javier on the other side is in a really good position too, because Seattle is a decent team, but I like them better against lefties with all the righty power they have. Really a clinic here, and Raleigh's a switch hitter, but JP Crawford and Holt Wong and Taylor Trammell don't really scare me at all, being lefties with a split advantage, and the righties don't really hit righties super well. And Javier's like really inexpensive here at 9,700. A little bit of a dip against Philly, but did well against Atlanta, did well against Toronto. Had a kind of rough game at Pittsburgh, but I think the wind was really blown out in that one. In his last couple of games, he's had 6 Ks, 10 Ks, 5 Ks. He's given up a home run in his at least one home run in his last 4 outings, but really hasn't given up too many earned runs after that. And his walks have definitely only 1 to 2 walks per game, so definitely things are under control. Going 5 or 6 innings. So definitely in play, really like him. So I think it's kind of a toss up between the two of them. Here it's like whichever one you like better. You're definitely getting a savings of $300. So I mean, it's really not that much. And if Vegas is right and this total here is going to stay at like 6.5 or 7, which is pretty low, it's the lowest total on the whole slate here, then maybe play both pitchers if you want to in a GPP. You're sacrificing the win, so for that, but who knows, like if they don't score any runs for the starters and the runs are scored after the against the bullpens, then at that point it's not going to matter because neither one's going to get the win anyways. So bat wise, I think they both just kind of go in the leverage section because both of them are decent pitchers, and I'd only play them in GPPs if you're you maybe go game theory here. So if you play Castillo and play a Seattle stack in a GPP, or if you play Javier, play a Houston stack in a GPP. But I think both pitchers are cash plays, but both of the team's bats are GPP only, not cash plays at all. I wouldn't even take one off there. Final game we have is Brewers and San Francisco Giants. This game has an 8 total. Wind blown out a little bit at 10 miles per hour, but again, that really doesn't help. Look at this. The Milwaukee Brewers are playing against a left-handed pitcher. I don't know if I can do it, though. Sean Manaea has been so bad. Well, what a dilemma here. We just went through all these game, like Sean Manaea has a 7.86 ERA. He has had one good game against Kansas City, and every other game has almost been a negative. Like he's given up 4 earned runs, 5 earned runs. Like he only gets about 3 strikeouts a game. Oh, what a dilemma here. Okay. If you're playing 20 max, then play one Sean Manaea lineup. Only one. If you're playing 150, maybe 3% Sean Manaea. I'm going to put YOLO next to him, because maybe he breaks the slate. I don't know. But Milwaukee has been horrible against left-handed pitching. So I have him as a GPP just because I knew how bad Manaea was, but I just looked down here and I just don't understand it. I don't think Adames did anything today. But I definitely, well, Corbin Burns on the other side. Let me get to that first. It was just a shock of forgetting that there's a left-handed pitcher. Even when I did my research, I didn't put it together, so I apologize for that. Against Milwaukee. So, but Corbin Burns at their side is just an amazing play. His price on DK in San Francisco has been better, and they've gotten more left-handed bats back into their lineup because, Wade was a little bit banged up, but Peterson's back in the lineup now, and a couple other people have come back, and Hanger's in there, but he's a righty, so they can mix and match you more, which makes the Giants harder to play against anybody because you don't know if they're going to get pinch hit for. You might only get like a couple at bats. It almost turns into like a spring training game. And then if they start out and then the lefty comes in for the bullpen, you might see a bunch of righties get subbed for the lefties, and then that's really not optimal for DFS unless you think they can absolutely crush them early enough and get enough runs before they get pulled for that. But I think it's just an amazing price here on Burns at 9,300 against this Giant team. I know he's got a 4 ERA for the season, and he's struggled a little bit, but he's still getting about 5 strikeouts a game. He's only given up 3 home runs all season long. He's really not walking people too much either. I just think it's been unlucky. I mean, he's gone deep into games, 5 innings, 6 innings. He went even 8 innings against Arizona. So I think that this is definitely a decent spot for him, and I'll probably be playing a bunch of him. He's the second most expensive pitcher on FanDuel, so it's a little bit harder there. But on DK at like 93, I think that's a great price for him. So absolutely we'll be locking in a lot of him there. As for the Milwaukee bats, again, I think it's GPP only here because they struggle against lefties, but Manaea has been so bad that maybe this is a chance if you want to make a righty stack here with Adames, Contreras, Brasheu, Anderson, maybe even a Voit or a Taylor against him. Miller, Warmer, they're probably going to throw a bunch, like everybody's going to be a right-handed bat here against, except for Yelich probably. So that might be in play in a GPP. And then I said San Francisco, I've just played the lefties, but just I'd only do in a GPP and not in cash. And I do it if I'm probably multi-entering, only simply because it's a case where you have a ton of pinch hit risk. So, okay. Sorry, that was such a long-winded breakdown, but I think it was a good educational one, so hopefully that helped for you. So let's get to the part where we look at the actual lineup. So, like I said, Burns, really like him here. For my SP2, Montgomery potentially, Fried potentially, or maybe I'll go up and get like Kershaw, Castellanos, or Javier. Not too interested in Wheeler, Senga, and Cash. I'm playing Kansas City, and I'm going to be playing Texas here. So, Perez at catcher, I'm going to take Lau or Pascuino at first base. Semien, third base. I really like, I think Garcia from the Royals here. The guy they just called up is a really good option and pretty cheap. Witt or Duran, if you want to save some money, he's been decent for Texas. Also, Olivares, and then just I'll let you figure out if you want like Grossman there, or if you want to pay up for Garcia from Texas and in the outfield. I mean, there's like Ledley Taveras. There's like so many different options. Just keep in mind, Mel Reyes is not an option anymore. He got sent down to AAA, so don't be putting him in your lineup, even though he's still in the DK pool and not marked as out or anything. On FanDuel, I'm probably playing Kershaw. If I can't get up to him, I'll probably drop down to Fried. If you can get Burns in, I'm fine with that also. Same thing, Perez, Semien, third base. You can't play Garcia there, but I'll have to figure out what I want to do. It's a little bit harder on FanDuel for that. Maybe Young is a decent fill-in there. He's been hitting pretty well for Texas. Which are Garcia, Olivares, Grossman, and then figure out who you want to fill in the rest with, depending on who your starting pitcher is. And then for FanDuel, we have, I'm taking Ober here. I'm going to be paying down. And then I think I'll end up with Fried or Montgomery in there. Might be able to get up to it depends, but I'm going the A's. I'm going the Dodgers. Again, when I first built this, I thought the Dodgers were against Musgrove. But if it is going to end up being a different pitcher, then we'll just have to reevaluate that. But I think it's a GPP, so I think the Dodgers will be fine here. And I'm throwing the A's in here because they're in a good hitting situation in Kansas City. So Linger, catcher, but he's a little bit expensive. If you want to go down and punt, if like Barnes is the catcher for LA, I'm fine doing a wraparound there. He's usually close to minimum price. Freeman, second base, so I'll let you figure out who you want there. It's kind of a dead spot. Muncy like bets at shortstop, and then Rooker Ruiz usually leads off for Oakland, and then I'll decide if you want to play Haywood or Outman in the outfield. And then for FanDuel, I'm taking, but I can get Arizona in there with Ober, so Freeman, Marte, Muncy, or Rojas. Shortstop, Betts isn't eligible, so that one you might just have to punt there. Perdermo sometimes plays for he's a switch hitter, so that's a nice wraparound thing, so you can go like 9-1-2, especially if Carroll's at third or whoever comes in at third. That's why I have Arizona outfield there. I'd probably take whatever lefty hits the highest up in the lineup, and then again, how you want to finish up. If you want to get Muncy in there, if you play Rojas at third, or Rojas in your utility if you play Muncy at third. If you want to try to get Walker in there because we played Freeman at first base, and then your Outman, Haywood, there's so many different options. So, long video today. I think we did a great job breaking a lot of these things down. So hopefully that helped you for your builds and for your bets and all the things that you might use this for. So I appreciate you watching. And I said, depending on when you watch this, just check the comments, because I think that's going to be the most important thing doing this the night before. It's 10:30 right now. A lot of things could change, weather, pitching, injury updates, things like that. So when I get up in the morning, if I see anything, I'll throw some out there. And then, lunchtime, if I see anything else, I'll throw some out there. But check by 6 p.m. I'll make sure that I have all the everything you need to know in the chat there to help you out. And if you have questions yourself, throw them in the chat also, and we'll just do what we can to work through the day to get back to you to get the answers as soon as we have them. So appreciate you watching. You can also hit me up at MegaRiver31 on Twitter. If these videos help you, please like, subscribe to our channel so you know when the videos are coming out. As like I said, this is a surprise doing it the night before. Usually I do them earlier in the morning, so you'll have something to wake up to here. And if you're subscribed, you get the notification that we have a new video out, and share with your friends, which you've been doing a great job, because we just keep on growing and growing and growing in views and in subscriptions. So it's free to subscribe to our channel. So if we're helping you for free, please help us back just by doing that simple task and encouraging others to do so also. And I appreciate the over 4,200 people that have already done so. Truly amazing. I really, really enjoy that. So check out NASCAR videos this week. I should have 2 of those. I'll have to do a speculation one for the Kansas race for truck, because we don't have lineups beforehand for Saturday, because it's all the same day stuff. But I'll definitely have it for Cup. So thanks for watching. For more information on FSi DFS, you can check out the description of the video. Hope you all have a good Friday and lead you off into a really good weekend. Let's make some money tomorrow on this slate. And thanks again for watching. I'll see you next time.